to it. Spawning over in the top left-hand side as our red Terran, it is ByuN.
And he's sounding SCVs out already. What a way to start our second day. In the bottom right side, we're taking a look at the main base of the only player to ever win the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice twice, our Korean Zerg, Rogue.
It is very weird for me to see ByuN kind of opt for this play straight away, you know? But I think it's kind of cool to start off the series like this. And also just to start off the group like this, because I'll be honest, I didn't know, and I still don't know what kind of ByuN we're expecting to see in this tournament.
Well, I'm expecting to see a very good ByuN, but this is also not what I was thinking of. I was kind of curious. Oh my goodness, what? Okay, Rogue is going to send out a drone, but he's sending it in the wrong direction. So he may see it, but it's going to take a little while. That Overlord, though, is going to spot it immediately. Well, hello there, Ben. If you scouted this early, can you send a couple of drones? It seems like the answer is yes. Rogue is sending out 3 drones immediately. This could be pretty bad for ByuN, but I do feel there are a lot of spots where the SCV will be protected. Yeah,
there's actually a ton of spots. Like, that barracks is already finishing. Can the Marines even pop out to the top of that if they want to? Now, this is a game of RNG at this point, and yes, they can actually pop out behind. So I don't think this is going to work out at all for Rogue, and every mineral matters at this point. So he just sent them over there, and they didn't really get anything done. Like, that is very unfortunate for him.
Yeah, it's almost like ByuN was okay with this getting scouted this early on because he knew that the barracks was going to finish up regardless. And even that SCV still having 20 HP is nice. Could potentially use the other SCV to repair it. Now, we do want to get some bunkers up. Rogue has sent all of his drones back into the main base, and now a lot of them are being sent down. With only a single Marine, this becomes difficult. ByuN wants to get at least 2 or 3 Marines before he can fight this amount of drones.
Yeah, I think ByuN's actually very happy with the amount of economic damage he's getting done without actually doing that much, right? Because back at home, he's mining a lot of gas. Obviously, he still wants to do damage if he can, and he is doing a lot of damage by forcing this many lings, and I don't know how much lost mining has been done, but even a supply block at this point, given that an Overlord hasn't started.
Well, 12 Zerglings have popped, so Rogue feels more than confident to just fight these Marines. And these Marines are in a bit of trouble, man. There is nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. He's going to live out of the barracks, but Rogue is getting the full surround. I don't think ByuN is all that happy anymore. This seems like a bit of a disaster to me.
That was a super disaster. The SCVs fall over as well. I am not sure. He stuck around for way too long there, and that was very uncharacteristic. And now, yeah, he's in a terrible spot here, Kev.
I mean, there's obviously no Marine at home either. And sure, the factory is halfway done and we can repair these depots for a while. But this is, speaking of lost mining time, ByuN is about to be the one to lose a whole bunch of mining time, and Rogue has all the freedom in the world. 2 bases against 1. Sure, by the time a Hellion comes out, like, these Lings are not going to kill ByuN, but they are going to deal quite a bit of economic damage. And I don't even know where you're supposed to take a game from here if you're ByuN.
No, me neither. I mean, the natural that he's making, it's not even remotely far along, right? Like, not even halfway done. And yeah, kills a drone, which is nice and cool, but he's going to be a lot of drones behind. And seeing this this reactorless factory as well, it's not as if Rogue has to worry about like 6 Hellions popping out sometime soon. There's going to be nothing. Rogue's in great shape.
He's actually dropping the Roach Warren at this point, which I find very early. I don't think he even really needs it that early. Maybe he's worried about an armory somewhere that he hasn't scouted yet. We do know that ByuN has a couple of crazy follow-ups, but the Zerglings did see that command center, correct? Yeah, they did see it. So Rogue knows that it's there, and obviously there's an absolutely 0 anti-air at this point, so Rogue is going to get a double scout off, this time with his Overlord in the main base. We often talk about when Zerg has freedom, they can create a pretty decent economic advantage. I think Rogue has all the freedom in the world, and ByuN has got his work cut out for him.
He does have all the freedom in the world, but the fact that he's not made any drones and he's getting this second gas as well, I can't help but think Rogue is doing what Rogue does, where he's got the kill button activated, you know, and he knows he's dealt damage, and he knows ByuN's going to have to cut a lot of corners to get back into this game. For example, maybe making a 3rd super dam early to try and catch up, but yeah, Rogue, I don't think he has any idea of letting this game go on for too much longer.
No, he doesn't seem too eager indeed to do that. And obviously it's going to be hard for ByuN to figure this out. ByuN is not really in a position where he can casually sacrifice a unit or two to get a decent scout off. This to me is a bit unnecessary, because I think if Rogue would have just played macro, this is an almost guaranteed win. Now ByuN does get a pretty decent scout off there, sees the Zergling, sees the Roaches. First tank is on the way. Yeah, it's still going to be a very difficult hold, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if I'm really that big of a fan of this move by Rogue.
I'm with you, Kevin. Like that, this is just making... It's kind of almost giving away a lead, and now these Hellions are getting a bit of damage done. Granted, there will be Lings to clean this up, and the Queens and what have you, but it's putting yourself on a little bit of a clock here. This is huge, though. The wall does go down. Lings, Roaches are flooding in. Only a few SVs go down so far, but hey, maybe Rogue knows how to play this game pretty darn good. I mean, he'll get to clear out everything on the low ground, but getting up this ramp and killing him is going to be tough.
He needs to kill him pretty much, because he's at 26 drones at this point. ByuN is actually the one with a minor economic advantage. Obviously, ByuN is going to lose the depots on the low ground, but Rogue wants more. Once again, raise that depot then. Okay, we are going to raise the depot. I like that we unsiege the tank, just to make sure that we don't lose it to a couple of corrosive piles. And slowly but steady, I actually feel that Rogue is running out of steam. He still has a minor army supply advantage. It's a bit sloppy that ByuN didn't have any SCVs there to repair the tank. When you have this many SCVs in your main mineral line, that's a mistake to me, Ben.
Certainly is, Kev. And I'm looking at this game now, and even though there's Lings still dealing damage, there's a bunker. There's more than enough to hold this off for ByuN. And let's look at the worker count. It's actually 30-30. Yeah. ByuN is absolutely back in this game. This was, like we kind of said, it was a bit of a botched error to go for this in the first place.
It's just unnecessary. I mean, Rogue is going to try to get a few more. Oh, that's some friendly fire on the SCVs. Rogue was looking for a few more SCVs, and he finds them immediately. So now he does create an 8-worker advantage for himself again. There is obviously still quite a bit of freedom, because ByuN lost his Hellions. ByuN does not have Stim yet. ByuN actually going for Combat Shield before Stim. What do you make of that, Ben?
Really weird. I don't know if that's because he thinks there's going to be like more waves of this all-in happening, and he has a starport out, so he can get medevacs pretty damn soon as well. Maybe he thinks he already has Stim. I hope it's not the case.
No, he definitely does not have Stim, but I rarely see this in games like this, especially because the lair is so late. I feel like there is quite a bit of potential in just having 12 to 14 Marines with Stim and a couple of medevacs out on the map. Maybe ByuN is going to make a ground push, because he does already have 2 tanks. He's getting another tank, so it's almost like a PvP push in TVZ.
It really is. Like, the fact that he's producing the Marines like he is from the 2 racks and what have you, there's no third in sight either. I mean, we definitely know it's going to be very hardcore 2-base aggression from him. This is a cheeky little Viking over here.
Well, these slow Marines are already making their way to the other side of the map, so I think ByuN knows exactly what he's doing. This is clearly the plan. He is going to lose the Viking. The Liberator is being annoying, and obviously while ByuN is doing all of this, I don't know how wary Rogue is of the fact that all these Marines are coming. He did just see it on the left side of his mini-map. Where are those tanks though then? Are they in the medevac? Yes, okay. There is a medevac on the way with 2 tanks. Another medevac is about to show up. So it's going to be a push with 3 tanks and 22 Marines with combat shield, no Stim.
This is the weirdest push, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see like Stim start being upgraded right here, right now. Yeah, because I think he was ready to stutter step micro there, but you know, it wasn't there. But we got to say, these Marines are definitely a lot more chunky with this combat shield. So, and there are 3 Ravagers alive, so he can one-shot tanks, but this is really hard to clean up for Rogue now.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, he doesn't have roach speed, right? Because he was on hatchery tech for so long. So these roaches are very slow. We do have Zerglings coming in from the top. They will be getting on top of these tanks. And the tank fire actually not perfect there. Shooting at quite a few of these Lings. Not in love with that. It feels like if the tanks were just going for the roaches immediately, a few more of these roaches would go down. Well, this is a very odd way to start the second day of the ESL DreamHack Last Chance tournament.
Yeah, this is one of those games where if these guys, they didn't have their names covered, I wouldn't know what the hell was going on, you know? Like, we have this single. In fact, this is very Bly-esque as well. That creep tumor down the middle of the map, the one creep tumor as well. Very, very unusual to only have one creep highway going on. But yeah, Roach Speed is finishing now. The double Evo is finishing as well. So both of them will kind of advance to the next stage of the game. But it's got to be said, Rogue surviving that push was a big deal for him in this game.
Absolutely, especially because the roaches were slow. I was like, this could actually be bad if he takes one poor engagement. Now at least ByuN does have multiple medevacs active on the map, finds 2 overlords, looking for the hat trick. Should be able to get this one too. You know, even though ByuN didn't do that much with his push pen, that third hatchery of Rogue is awfully low on HP. And if a few medevacs do sneak in there and we do get Stim, Rogue could actually be in a bit of danger of potentially losing that base.
He certainly could. And even though his Evo's finished about the same time as the engineering bays of ByuN, he hasn't started his 1-1 either, which is, I think that's a little bit of an error on his part. Obviously, he's macroing up like a beast, getting up to 4 bases, and his drone count stayed pretty steady. If he does forget 1-1, that is going to be a huge misstep by him.
Yeah, it's very odd to see just 2 Evos casually chilling in the back of the natural. The entire game has just been a bit off tempo, where Rogue found himself in an amazing spot after absolutely smacking down the 2-Rex opening of ByuN. It felt that he could have just skyrocketed up to 60 workers, and there would be absolutely nothing that ByuN could have done about it. Instead, we've got this game where I don't think I hate Rogue's position, but to say that I'm in love with it, to say that it's as good as it could have been, I think goes a bit far. But he does still have a pretty big army, and ByuN's marine count, actually 38 marines, 5 tanks. I don't think he's in any danger of dying anytime soon.
As you said, it's a weird game, Kev. It's just weird. Like, I'm looking at this still. Like, Hive's almost finished. 1-1's just started. We've got Burrow on the way. We've got Hydralisk Den finishing. Like, this is almost old school Tefl style, you know, with this. Oh, lurkers. Okay, now I'm liking Rogue's position all of a sudden.
Bam, we don't even have a single upgrade yet. The building isn't even done yet. Contain that PTSD of yours, okay?
Oh, I can't help it. And by the way, like, of 2 players that are kind of, like, I would say, kind of revel in this kind of chaos of a game, I would say these are 2 players that actually like it being rather unorthodox.
That's funny. Rogue almost getting a double kill on his own units. He is making a little push in the 3rd base of ByuN, but yeah, this army is nowhere near big enough to really get a whole lot done. Freeing up a little bit of supply to get a couple Vipers and get a couple Hydras out that can then eventually become Lurkers is obviously not too bad. I'm happy to see this game still going on. I feel like it could have ended a long time ago, and at least we still have some things to look forward to. It is going to be hard for ByuN to ever get like the proper anti-lurker army out though, right? I think it's going to have to be done with just brute force.
I think so, and kind of like low tech and what have you. I know that we saw Clem deal with them pretty handily by adding a few ghosts in the mix on top of like the already. Getting caught on siege though is ByuN. Oh, this is so many times just getting picked off. In fact, actually, he got away pretty lucky there, I think.
Yeah, I think only a single tank went down. Maybe 2, but that was about it. ByuN is incredibly heavy on the Marines. It's a shame for him he doesn't have that +2 upgrade. We do have our first lurkers out on the field, and they are working towards seismic spines. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've seen this before, where it looks potentially dangerous, but I don't see these Marines really stimming in. I mean, I've seen it on your stream, man. It never really ends that well.
It doesn't end very well, Kev. I've lost like 300 MMR just today alone doing that kind of thing. But yeah, like, I will say this, though. ByuN does micro like nobody else, especially the very, very basic army situations, like his splitting and what have you. Like, he's even had a Skillus questioning shield battery power, you know, like those kind of things. But 2-2 is about to finish, and that is a real big deal.
It is a really big deal, but I mean, with the Vipers in the mix too, I feel that Blinding Clouds could be very annoying. We can also just have a couple of abducts. One of the abducts was on a Marine. That's a bit silly. ByuN is still going for it, but man, this cannot go well, can it? Apparently it's going somewhat decent. A lot of these Marines are so low on HP, but there were backup lurkers too. Not bad for ByuN, but I don't think it's enough to break Rogue.
I think he traded efficiently though, right? Like, I really do. I mean, we look at the banks, we look at the supplies. He's got his 4th base up behind this as well. He's actually ahead in, ahead in workers kind of temporarily as well. I don't think that was too bad, you know?
It definitely wasn't too bad for how it could have gone, but maybe wanted a bit more because it's still going to take a long time before we're going to get a whole bunch of additional Marauders, maybe Ghosts, maybe Liberators with advanced ballistics. Losing these tanks does sting a bit. He's got 5 left. So I'm definitely with you when you say it could have gone a lot worse, but he's still down a base, and don't know if he really got the damage he was looking for. Oh no, Rogue actually killed his own Hydra Den with Vipers. I was looking at this before. I was like, mate, why are you using your Hydra Den over and over again to leech energy? That's a bit dangerous. And apparently he just killed it.
These things happen even to world champions, you know. Oh, Nidus network going up. I like that choice. And also, like, if one gets up and you get into the main base, like, that can cause a lot of problems. The one thing I'm really worried about this game for ByuN is the fact that very often he can tend to stay on the low basic army and doesn't really adapt or, you know, evolve, which I could see happening for him.
It's been a long time coming, but this hatchery is in danger again. The lurkers were a little bit out of position. They do have all their fancy upgrades, so they're going to try to save the day. But this time, I believe that ByuN should be able to take out this hatchery. The queen is doing whatever it can. I love the positioning of the Bayo here. Out of range of these lurkers. Takes out the hatch and still has 4 tanks on the hatch of creep too.
That was perfect positioning by ByuN. Any of this bio being chased, these lurkers couldn't get close enough either. And like, Rogue's in a real tough spot. Like, he's taking that far left base, which I don't think will stay up for too much longer. Oh no, don't do a Benny.
No, that was a bit adventurous. I mean, ByuN should probably be happy with the damage he's already done. I don't even mind if he keeps these units here, because I think this opens the doors for him to be a little more successful on the right side. And we can already see on the minimap there is a big army indeed moving towards the top right. And I don't see how Rogue has enough in both locations. Viper's doing whatever they can. They've been landing a lot of abducts. But I almost feel, Ben, like using those abducts in the medevacs in the top right. I liked it at first. I didn't really talk about it. But that also meant he didn't have that much energy to deal with this army at the bottom. So I think it kind of backfired.
You might be totally right. Like, what was more important, keeping your 4th alive or hunting down a little, you know, task force? And here, we do have a lot of Rogue. He looks pretty safe. Nice pickup with the medevac saving those tanks. And Rogue, while he's kind of stabilizing, it is so scary having this, you know, empty space to the left side of your natural. Like, that's where your 3rd's meant to be. Oh.
Does not get the Nidus yet, still doesn't get it, and that means 5 lurkers are now on top of the production. Well, this is kind of the stuff that Rogue indeed needed to really start dealing some damage on the other side of the map. ByuN is gonna send his tanks, and I think with the tanks he should be alright. Losing the starport is gonna hurt though. I think that's his only starport. Yes, it is. He's gonna try to save it. We do still have a fight in the natural too. Where are the Vipers when you need them the most? It feels like there's so many tanks clumped up there. 1 or 2 blinding clouds could actually be good enough for these lurkers to just run in there.
They absolutely could, and ByuN's doing a good job of defending in his main as well, although that is a massive clump of units!
I don't know about the good job there. He was doing a good job at first, but that was quite painful. Lost a lot of extra bio units. Will be able to clean it up in the end, and still has these units on the bottom side of the map. I cannot believe this is an 18-minute game. This game could have ended so many different times, but now the lurker then went down too. Rogue is just gonna run everything in. The tanks are a little bit exposed, and the lurkers will be able to obliterate these tanks. My goodness, man, what a game.
This is a real cracker, and they're both like neck and neck in terms of supply. 148 versus 147. More Niduses are going to go up. It's going to be really hard to get up a second Nidus, just because the first one's a bit of a surprise, right? Just to know that your opponent has that tech. Actually, Rogue lost his Lurker Den as well for the moment in time, so no reinforcements on the Lurkers for the time being either.
Yeah, that was in the natural. I think the tanks were in range, but ByuN lost that starport. He lifted it, but I think it burned down. So he actually has no starports out at this point, and that means no liberators for a while. He does have 7 medevacs, and you could say that's plenty, but a lot of them are in danger of dying to a single parasitic bomb, so this could become an issue too.
Oh, and Rogue had so much gas banked as well. 9 lurkers coming out on the field and continually trying to get these Niduses up. And even though they are going down and they're not cheap at all, they're 100, 100. If any one of those goes up, the amount of damage that caused earlier, it could spell real trouble for ByuN.
What's the lurker count now? We've got 14 lurkers, still have 2 Vipers. 2 Vipers, maybe not the dream amount. I don't know about this fight. There's a lot of tanks sieged up. These units at the ramp are getting absolutely obliterated. The units on the right side doing a little bit better. Now we do have a couple of lurkers in range of the planetary fortress, but this PF's got some serious range too and takes out a few of the lurkers. This fight is wild.
Yeah, this fight definitely wasn't that good for Rogue, and he's really suffering at the moment. Like, that was a lot of his lurk force. He's down to 6, and he's going to lose the rest of them as well at this rate. This is a real good cleanup by ByuN. And even though he's been sticking on this kind of low economic or low tech army, he's been making so much happen with it. He's pulling Rogue apart.
Yep, there's a little Bioforce active on the bottom side too, getting another cancel on the hatchery, and that is going to do it. After 20 minutes, ByuN takes the 1-0 lead. And if I would be having a little chat with, let's say, Gabe, and Gabe would be like, I missed the first game, what happened? Like, where do I even start? Like, none of this really makes any sense, or it doesn't add up. Very different game, but very impressive that ByuN still managed to win it.
Yeah, the fact that 2-Rex got scouted and absolutely shut down, like, we can talk a little bit about maybe the drone pools didn't work out, but it's a case of RNG, right? Like, if those SCVs are on the outside constantly building, then those drones pay off in dividends. But then that cleanup, and then it was like, okay, Rogue, you're pretty damn far ahead now. You're very comfortable. Then doing that all in, just to, like, that, as you said, you called it, it wasn't necessary. Like, it really wasn't. And ByuN, he's a player that doesn't tend to always go Hellions anyway. Like, even at the best of times, he went straight into Marine production, straight into the tank. He did a lot of the defensive plays, and it very much felt like ByuN kind of knew who he was playing. And Rogue is that guy that very often he'll try and be as cheeky as possible with these kind of timings.
Yeah, and I think we got to give a compliment to ByuN for using the 3 Hellions offensively as well. It's very easy to be like, oh no, I'm being attacked. I need all the units that I have at home. But I think those Hellions were way more effective in the natural of Rogue than they would have been defensively. Getting 7-8 drone kills when the Zerg is producing that many units of only 35 drones to begin with is a very big deal. I love the fact that he unsieged his tanks while the Ravages were getting in range. He's like, cannot Corrosible this. I even do think that he could have saved that second tank if he would have put a couple of SCVs, because he was oversaturated anyway in the main. But well done by ByuN. But I do feel that's a game where, like, if Lambo, for instance, is watching that game, I know that Lambo is ripping his hairs out. It's like, why would you make such an attack when you don't have to? You can just make 60, 70 drones, and what is ByuN really going to do about it?
No, yeah, absolutely. There was another thing as well. Like, we could go on for days about all the things that ByuN does super well. It was like the Liberator as well. It's kind of sat there, seemingly AFK. Then as soon as Biles went out in the depots, then he seized it, realizing then it's safe. Like, so many cute moves. Anyhow, spawning over in the bottom left-hand side, currently 1-0 up. It is ByuN.
And in the top right side of Oxide, we're taking a look at the main base of the man whose kill button apparently malfunctioned a little bit in game 1. Let's see if we can find it again in game 2. It is Rogue.
It is such a fine line in StarCraft 2 between looking like a genius and looking like a fool when it comes to those kind of moves, right? Like, we could have been totally wrong and it been like, okay, just caught ByuN being a bit too greedy. I think one thing that ByuN did very well, by the way, also, and it's so hard to know or do, or maybe it's, a little bit of luck going your way, but he didn't throw down a third or anything like that. He was just like, okay, I'm powering up on 2 bases, my 2 barracks producing and stuff.
No, you make a very valid point there, because I feel like in the past we've seen Maru quite often open up with 2 Rexes or even 3 Rexes. Didn't work out, builds triple CC, still gets back into it as soon as he's got Stim and a couple of medevacs, and we're like, how does he do it? And maybe Rogue just kind of expected ByuN after a very unsuccessful 2 Rex to also do that and feel that would be his only chance to get back into a macro game. And then maybe Rogue's strategy would have been indeed very effective. So I think it's important you bring that up. Yeah, once again, I still feel it was a little bit unnecessary. And sure, sometimes we compliment Rogue for being the no-nonsense kind of Zerg that he is, right? When he can win games, he just wins games, doesn't make it overly complicated. This time it just backfired a little.
Yeah, and this game we're seeing something very different from ByuN, and this is what you brought up specifically, that he's got a plethora of openings, different openings at that. So this game he goes for the Marine first and the SCV Scout. SCV scouting became way more common in this matchup just because, there is a lot of tomfoolery going on from Zergs these days with the roach openings, the pool first and what have you. This just means that you're totally safe. This could be like... this could be a lot of things. We've seen the single medevac drop with the Marine squad just going about killing overlords and doing what it can. We've seen Hellbat openings. It's actually very hard for a Zerg these days to really figure out what they're up against.
It's got to be massive for ByuN to win on Death Aura too, right? Getting into Oxide here and second map. This is obviously a map that a lot of turn players are very fond of. Some Zergs hate it so much that they even veto it over Submarine. So for everybody who is cheering for ByuN out there, you got to be feeling really good. Not just for the fact that he won a miraculous game 1, game 2 being played on Oxide too. In a best of 3, I even find it a tad surprising.
Yeah, actually, Kev, it's a good point that you bring that up, because if Zerg veto, and this is a best of 3, if they veto 2 maps, he vetoed Submarine. What was his other veto? Because in my head, I'm like, Oxide is almost as much of a like anti-Zerg map as Submarine in a way in this mashup.
I have no idea. I did see that Jagannatha was the first veto of ByuN, and for some reason I didn't really look down any further. I was like, best of 3, best of 5, man. I knew we were playing best of 3, but I wasn't really paying attention to the second vetoes.
So I saw ByuN veto Lightshade as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because of the Roach all-ins, and just it's a very short map, can get dangerous against a player like Rogue. It's also hard to expand, and it's very easy. But we do have, I think... In fact, okay, so there's no armory going up, right? I think it's going to be that medevac drop that we talked about.
I mean, it must be then either Romanticide or Pillars of Gold. Maybe he vetoed Romanticide because ByuN is just amazing with Marine Tank in the center of it.
Romanticide is the final map, I think.
Okay, well, then he vetoed Pillars of Gold, which... Okay.
It's weird. It's weird.
Well, it is what it is. We do have our 8 Marine drop, and ByuN does find himself a Overlord immediately. That's decent. What's nice about this is that you pull the Queen out of position. The Hellions are looking for an opening in the third. We didn't have that many links, but ByuN doesn't want to go for it just yet.
No, and a Raven follow-up. So this is a really, really complex opening by ByuN. We've seen a lot of different stuff popularized by a lot of good Terrans recently. So it's just, 3 Hellions that can poke, and if the Zerg kind of misreacts, I suppose, to the medevacs and stuff, you can get a lot of damage done very, very quickly. And ByuN is throwing down a third. I don't know how many Ravens he'll make, but double engineering base starts up pretty damn fast as well. Actually, before his second and third barrack. So wow, he's going to be powering out upgrades very, very quickly.
I watched a pretty awesome best of 5 between Gabe and Raynor the other day in one of the weeklies that we had to do to catch up. And Gabe actually found quite some success with some of the Raven, sometimes even double Raven openings against Zerg. And I'm like, I haven't really seen this before, but it did really work out. And it's fun because obviously it's good to clear up creep. But there are also some moments where these auto turrets can become super annoying, because if you just attack move with Zerglings, I mean, the last thing you ever want to see as a Zerg player is your Lings dying to auto turrets while Marines just stand behind it and wail away at them.
Turrets are actually surprisingly tanky. Like, you click on this bad boy over here, 1 armor, 150 health. You could have maybe focus fired the drones a little bit more, but anytime you do this, it's just so annoying, and that's going to be free damage for basically the rest of the game if he keeps on doing that. Like, obviously you can shut it down if you go Aspire, but we do see that that isn't the choice of tech for Rogue. So yeah, it's going to be constantly a threat, or a thorn in his side even.
And Rogue is heading once again for a Roach composition, as we see the 1-1 missile attacks being upgraded, and obviously Roach 1 going down. On Oxide, I'm not super shocked to see it. We've seen Dark do this very often. It just seems like a lot of Zerg players kind of want to play Roaches on this one, because they don't feel super comfortable playing like Ling Bane or Ling Bane Muda. Kind of like what some of the other Zergs do, where they just basically play pure Ling Bane and don't go for Aspire and try to get a sick economy up like that, because this is a decent map to get at least some of these run-bys going. I'm personally never too fond of the Roaches in this matchup, but I can understand Rogue doing it on this particular map, I guess.
Yeah, me too. This is one of the better maps for tanks in the pool, and you can say like tanks are better against Roaches than like the Ling Bane, but you know, these Terrans these days, and especially a player like ByuN. Oh god. Like, they're so good at focus firing. Oh, poor lad. Ooh, this is a chunky boy push, actually. 3 medevacs, a bunch of Marines with stim. Oh, look at the timing for 1-1. If he kind of holds back a little bit before the fight starts, this could be a lot stronger than you'd think.
A lot of the Roaches did morph into Ravagers. We have a single tank showing up in the backline. Roaches do not have speed yet, so this is kind of annoying for Rogue, but he does have the numbers, even if it won't be the prettiest fight. I don't know if going this far out and running into that one tank, the tank has been getting so many good shots off. Rogue is going to be able to push this back, but I feel like he lost a lot of units in doing so.
That Bile with the last hit on the the Roaches there. But Rogue, I mean, he's going pedal to the metal here. 66 drones, the magic number. No bunkers in defense either. It feels like ByuN was a little bit underprepared, or maybe thought the push was going to do more than it did. But Rogue is all in, make no mistake about it.
So much micro potential in these Marines, though. A lot more than I feel like there is in the Roaches. All that Rogue can really do is take out that tank as quickly as possible. I do like taking out all these depots. He's going to supply block. That is a lot of Roaches and Ravages. It's go time for Rogue. He knows it. Let's see how good these Marines are. Bunker is going to finish up. That's going to provide some extra HP here defensively for ByuN. Rogue's supply is just exploding. Jeez Louise is making a lot of Roaches and Ravages. And it actually seems like it's going to be enough, man.
It certainly does, Kev. Like, he's down to 90 supply against 160, and Rogue is doing nothing but going. He didn't invest in the 2-2 like ByuN did. He's not going for any later stage of the game. He activated the kill switch, and yet again, slightly misses that tank there, but it doesn't matter. There's just too much. But that being said, he's losing all his juicy Ravagers that were just basically hugging the Marines at that point in time. Definitely a bit unnecessary.
Yeah, but there's a lot of additional Roaches on the way. Now, if ByuN ever gets enough time to get those 2-2 upgrades out, I do believe there is always a little bit of comeback potential. Rogue seems to agree as he's going to go back into the droning as he's firing up 8 drones. I mean, I still think this was obviously a very successful attack. Resetting the tank count, getting all those depots, getting 27 SCVs is a very big deal. But Marines with an upgrade advantage over Roaches, man. I refuse to call those games before I truly see the orbitals die.
You can't call it, yeah. I mean, Rogue is ahead. We can't, like, we can't play around with that. And Rogue is coming in from multiple angles here as well. Nice unsiege and pick up on that tank, getting away. 2-2 is about to kick in as well. That is a huge deal. And even though Rogue's economy is untouched behind all this, yeah, not having the 2-2 on the way is a big, big deal.
And ByuN is like, you know what? Best defense is offense. I'm going to send 60 Marines to the other side of the map. The longer this game goes, the more I will start believing in ByuN's chances again. Even when he's down 70 supply, it feels crazy to say these things, but Rogue is pretty much maxed out, man. His army is not going to get any better than it currently is. ByuN does end up losing a few Marines. If I'm Rogue, I'm willing to keep on trading. Even if some of these fights are not that pretty on the other side of the map, I really don't want to face a ByuN with 180 supply of well-upgraded Marines and tanks, because that's just not going to end well for your Ravager army.
Certainly isn't, and these Lings, they got no damage upgrades, so they're literally just cannon fodder at this point. If the tanks focus those Roaches, which they are doing, they're going to deal a lot of damage, but is there just too much Rogue at this point? It looks like maybe there is a supply just back up to 200 again with mass Roaches.
I love that fight.
ByuN's good.
I love that fight. It's obviously scary to run into 3 tanks, but it's better to just trade it and sit on a maxed out Rogue Ravager army and not get anything done. There are some Marines being annoying on the other side of the map. Rogue will most likely end up losing all these units, but not before taking out another tank. I actually absolutely love the way that Rogue played the last minute of this game.
Yeah, he's doing everything right, you know? Like, his units, they are supply inefficient units, but cost efficient, that they are. And yeah, he's just had an advantage right from the get-go. And here he's just pushing it. He's absolutely pushing it. And every fight, ByuN, like, he can't afford to trade efficiently, never mind inefficiently, which is what Rogue's almost making him do.
Yep, and Rogue has done such a good job in resetting the tank count over and over and over again. You never want to run into 4 or 5 tanks while he's making it impossible for ByuN to get those tanks. The Orbital is super low on HP, it does live. The Marines get on top of the Ravagers, but there are still so many extra Roaches and Ravagers coming in. GG, just like that, Rogue will tie up this series. We are heading into a deciders match in our first best of 3 of the day. It's a weird series so far, but it's a fun one.
It's a super fun one. Like, these guys are very, very chaos-matched players, right? But guys and girls, I think we'll be taking a short break, and we'll be back to find out who wins this series. Hello guys, welcome back to DreamHack Last Chance Day 2 with Group B. This is literally the first series of the day with ByuN and Rogue, and we're already going to the third game of the series, which will be happening on Romanticide, and we're getting right on into the game. So, Kev, they've been crackers so far, I would say.
They've been fun games. I mean, I want to give a compliment to Rogue for how he played out the final minute or two of that previous game, because when ByuN picks up those 60 Marines and starts dropping on the other side of the map, we've often seen Zergs fall apart a little bit, right? Either they send home too much or too little, and then they cannot kill the two base Terran, but they start taking a lot of damage at home, or they send everything home and they cannot close out the game, and then the Terran does find a way back into the game. So this man absolutely played it out perfectly in my eyes. In the bottom right side, our Korean Zergy, Rogue.
And spawning over in the top left-hand side, you love him, it is ByuN.
You love him, Ben. You love him.
You know, given that he was coming back and it was kind of talked about and stuff, I was like, oh, I hope he does well for his sake. I never really thought he'd be as good as quickly as he was. That Aces ROG performance was actually mind-blowing. That's the kind of thing that dreams are made of.
Yep, and that's the kind of thing that we'll be talking about it for a very, very long time. And for all the right reasons, because winning a tournament is always impressive, but the way he won that tournament truly was something out of the ordinary. Just winning and looking so damn solid and good in each and every single matchup against some of the best players in the world of their respective races. Since that moment, it's still been good, right? ByuN never really just shows up and rolls over immediately and doesn't put up much of a fight. But it's obviously hard to follow that performance up with another stunning performance and another stunning performance. But I've got pretty high hopes for him today, even though this is a very difficult group. I mean, Rogue is already showing us that he's here to battle. Rogue, in all honesty, probably should have been winning this best of 3 by now. I don't think we should have been even in a game 3, Ben. Somehow we are here. But let's not forget about those two Protoss players, and in particular, Parting. We haven't talked too much about Parting yet, but Parting has done very well against ByuN, even after that amazing Aces ROG run.
Yeah, and I know you said you had high hopes for ByuN today, and I was just thinking, I do have high hopes for ByuN, but when I was thinking about how high are my hopes, it's if I give the edge to any player in this group, at max, I'm like, do they have a 30% chance or a 35? It's so freaking tough to call who's actually going to win in this group, given how good all these players are. But yeah, you're right. Parting, if you said he was potentially the underdog of the group, that just shows you it's freaking stacked.
Yeah, he could very well be, because I do think in a PvP against Trap, he is an underdog. Trap has been kind of owning Parting in those PvPs over the last few months when they went up against each other, and I think we all know how good Trap is in that matchup. But when it comes to who does better against ByuN, it could very well be that it's just kind of a stylistic clash between the way that ByuN and Parting play, but Parting doesn't really allow ByuN to shine, because Parting is the one who often hits first. Cobra Kai, strike hard, strike first. That's kind of Parting in that matchup. And then ByuN isn't really able to do what he likes to do in that matchup.
Ooh, ByuN's going for something very weird here. So he, again, skipped the Reaper Scout and just went Marine. Didn't scout with an SCV either. So it's 2 Hellions into 2 Widow Mines, which is really odd. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 4 Widow Mines in total. Maybe he goes super duper crazy and gets an armory as well. At this point, this is very unusual by ByuN and Rogue, given that, no Reaper turned up, and that's already kind of weird. You've got to be thinking, okay, what's this guy sending at me? And yeah, bangarang, it is an armory going down to that natural.
That means that these Widow Mines will be permanently cloaked very early into the game. Rogue scouting so far in this series, I feel has been pretty decent. His Overlord will see the first medevac move out, but he builds a spine crawler, Benjamin. He's reading this as a potentially, Marines and a lot of Hellions morphing into Hellbats. He is not thinking about these Widow Mines yet.
No, not at all. And that's one of the things, right? Well, that was a few Queens that were ready to pounce on that medevac, and that's already buying him quite a bit of time. Now Rogue's got to be thinking, okay, what's actually in this? Is it the Marines again? I got no Spore Crawlers down or anything. I've got a lot of Lings, and they don't have Tunneling Claws yet. I think Rogue's actually doing this pretty well so far.
His medevac is very low on HP. One of the Widow Mines will get picked off. Did two of the Widow Mines get picked off? Wow, this is flawless defense. Because that medevac is so low. I don't even really know if you want to do this, ByuN. I feel that Rogue could have maybe moved that queen a little bit towards the right side. Because he knew where the medevac was. And he knew how low on HP it was. But overall, still very good defense.
Yeah, I think that Widow Mine was a little bit of a bait too. Like these Hellions, ByuN was moving very quick. He was getting ready to sweep in there, but those queens, they got postured and like very little damage was done. That was a 4 Widow Mine drop for 2 drones. I mean, that is not worth it at all. But given that he had that armory available, he's been making quite a few Hellions. He does have the ability to morph into Hellbats here, which is kind of cool.
And these openings are so wild, right? It's just like, ByuN, like you just keep rotating your openings around. Makes it very hard for the Zerg to really figure out what is happening. Rogue does see that medevac coming in, but I don't think he knows that this time it's filled up with Hellions, not with Hellbats. There's something, I think a Raven heading towards the natural too. I actually would have liked to see these Hellbats just be Hellions for once and just drive into that main base. But hey, as Hellbats, they're going to be able to trade very well too against just a couple of Zerglings and 1 queen. Finally, ByuN is finding the damage he's looking for.
Yeah, this is quite a lot of lost mining time. I mean, this turret also being annoying, stopping the mining at the 3rd. And even though we're not seeing a lot of drones fall, that income tab, it is very in favor of ByuN right now. So finally getting damage done, but it's got to be said, Rogue's doing a good job of making sure that he's not really losing that much.
A lot of Zerglings looking for a potential counter, not very successful as the depots were raised. The other turret is grabbing a few more kills for itself. Funny opening. I do think it's obviously all right for Rogue, especially with the upgrades already on the way. Lair is halfway done. Maybe there is some potential in ByuN's first proper push, because the Marine count is getting up there. We have a couple of tanks on the way, and obviously Rogue is still just a 3-base Zerg.
He is. He's getting a macro hatch. That's very indicative of going like the Ling Baneling style. And Ling Baneling, especially in the hands of somebody like Rogue, is kind of one of the safer openings, honestly. Like, I know this turret, or rather this Raven, is very low health, so he doesn't have to worry about that for too long, but I think Rogue's in good shape, honestly.
That Raven has no health anymore. He just casually flew over a single queen in the center of the map. So ByuN losing his Raven, it's going to be a bit annoying. Now he's going to be probably forced to drop a couple of scans that he otherwise wouldn't have to drop. It is also very important, I think, for ByuN to get that wall off going on the top side of the map ASAP. When the Zergs are only playing with Lings and Banes and they're not spending any money on Hydras or Mutas whatsoever, they obviously have an overwhelming amount of Ling Bane, and the run-bys will be non-stop, so you really cannot skip a beat on getting your wall-offs up.
Yeah, and that creep of Rogue as well, it's blooming out like a flower, going in every direction. Now he's getting the Hydralisk Den, but it's not as if he's got a low amount of Ling Bane to really deal with this pressure. ByuN is going and wrapping around the creep really nicely here, going for that 4th base of Rogue, and Baneling speed isn't actually done yet. This is kind of a cool timing for him.
Yep, there is a tank. There's a lot of Zerglings so far. The micro is absolutely perfect on the side of ByuN. Can we take out these slow Banelings? I think the answer is always yes with ByuN. And this fight just did absolutely not work out for Rogue. Now one of the queens even gets caught. The 2nd queen with a lot of energy. Look at the amount of energy on these queens. But they're all falling. The Banelings simply weren't ready. He had a lot of Zerglings, Ben. He did not have a lot of Banelings. ByuN saw an opportunity, and the micro is just out of this world.
And it's not stopping. It's not stopping. There's 4 speed Banes left. That is not enough. And sniped. Oh, one does connect, though. That gets a juicy hit on the Marines, but it's not enough. And ByuN, oh my word.